Alright, due to a technical error, I've had to make a part 3. So let's just get on with this. Uses of salt. 1 second. Let's get this on the road. Okay, so it's used as a preservative, which stops food from rotting and gives it a taste. And rock salt is used to grit the roads. Okay, and what rock salt does is, by the way, the guys, these are just the uses of how salt is actually used. And so preservatives to stop food rotting away and give it a nice taste. And rock salt that's those big trucks that put salt all over the roads when it's really, really cold. And what it actually does is it lowers the freezing point of water. So water normally turns from water to ice at 0 degrees, but what salt does, it makes that lower, like -10 or something, and so it will stop it turning to ice as easily. Okay, and is also used as a raw material to make other chemicals. Okay, now this is a cave where there's a lot of salt found, and so what they've done is they've gone down and they've drilled a load of salt out. Because that's one method, so you can dig it out, or you can make it by the sea. And what you do is get a load of sea water, make these little pits, and as the water evaporates, it leaves the salt behind. Cheshire is a famous place for mining salt, but there's two main ways, and you need to know them. Okay, number one is a cutting machine. They use this big, massive hench machine, which actually cuts the salt away. Okay, cutting machines cut salt from the mines, but the salt is very impure, so it's called rock salt, and it's used to grit the roads. Another way is making boreholes. Now, a borehole is basically you just dig a massive hole underground, and then you pump water into it. Now, what happens is the salt dissolves in that water, and then it's pumped back out as salt solution. And it's either sold as salt solution, or it's evaporated to make table salt. Okay, now this is one of the boreholes where you dig this massive hole, pump water down it, and that makes something called brine, which is what salt water is. That's what brine is. And then you pump it back out, and then you send it to one of these plants, which will evaporate the water, sell it as salt solution, or evaporate the water and sell it as table salt. Or the salt solution will go into this big truck and it'll drive around and they'll sell it to different places. So, when you take salt out of the ground, like you do with this big massive cave over here, you get something called subsidence. Okay, now what subsidence is when the ground is empty, the buildings can collapse and make these massive, massive holes. So that's a problem with this, and this is a subsidence in or subsidence in a town in Northwich. I don't know where that is, and you can see this house is full on collapsed. So, chemicals from the borehole. Now, what borehole companies do is they salt their salt water and it can be made into other chemicals. So, we're going to look at what other chemicals they can actually do with it. First of all, they can do electrolysis. So, they can get this salt solution, just like we looked at with copper sulfate and copper, they can do electrolysis on it. And what they do is the same drill. They have an anode and they have a cathode, and then they pass electricity through it. So, what happens is, the concentrated salt solution goes in. This is the anode over here, and this is the cathode. Now, what happens is the anode is obviously positive, and the cathode is negative. And what happens is in the anode, chlorine gas is given out. Okay, at the cathode, hydrogen gas is given out. Okay, and remember that hydrogen is used in the Haber process, so they probably sell the hydrogen over to the Haber process people. Okay, and what was also made is something called sodium hydroxide, and as you know, that is an alkali, and they can also sell that to people, so they can make lots of different things. Okay, so this is the electrolysis of salt solution, or the electrolysis of brine. So in goes the salt solution, okay, that they've got from the borehole. Chlorine gas comes out. Now, chlorine gas can be, we'll talk about that in a second, about the swimming pools, just think that. And so it can make chlorine, it can make hydrogen, and it can also make sodium hydroxide, lots of different things. So, three main products are made from the electrolysis of brine, salt water. And that is chlorine gas, hydrogen gas, and sodium hydroxide. Okay, now, this is the word equation for making salt solution. Water plus sodium hydroxide gives you hydrogen, chlorine, and sodium hydroxide. Yeah. So, key points that you have to know. The electrolysis has to be made from something called inert electrodes. Inert means unreactive. Okay, and that is because the hydrogen and chlorine are very reactive and they can wear the electrodes away, which is why our inert electrodes are going to be titanium and nickel. Okay, and so you need to be able to know the chemical test for chlorine. And the chemical test is that it turns a litmus paper white. It bleaches it. You can see the litmus paper there. Add a little bit of chlorine gas to it. Makes it go white. There you go. Okay. The hydrogen, it can be used to make margarine, believe it or not. So you get the butter and you do something called hydrogenation, which is adding of hydrogen to it. And the hydrogen can be used in the Haber process to make ammonia. That's what they do, all this hydrogen gas over here. Okay. Chlorine is used to sterilize swimming pools. You've been swimming and the chlorine can make your skin itch, makes your eyes go red, but that's what they use the chlorine for, because chlorine really good at killing microorganisms. But it can also be used to make bleach. So chlorine can be used to make bleach, and it can be dissolved in the sodium hydroxide, which is also made from this process, and that makes bleach. So that is the second thing that it can make bleach. Sodium hydroxide can also be used to make soap. And that was it. A very short part of the three. I wish I could have added it to the second video, but I couldn't. But there you go. That is all of C2 completed. Rushed through a lot of that, but just make sure you watch the video, pause it, try and understand it. If you've got any more questions, watch it, ask me in lessons if you need the help. Okay.